3 years after the murder of Mickey Davis, a Wichita family finally finds closure. Today, a judge sentenced Rachael Hilyard to life in prison without the chance of parole for 50 years.
Ever since this happened, I've asked myself, why would you do this? It is so outside of my character. I am still shocked with myself.
A jury convicted Hilyard of first-degree murder in the 2017 decapitation of a Wichita grandmother, Mickey Davis. Caroline Elliott was in court today when Hilyard received a life sentence behind bars.
The judge sentenced Rachael Hilyard to the maximum sentence for the murder and decapitation of Mickey Davis. The judge says she won't get the chance for parole until 2070. The whole family was there for the sentencing today. They say they're ready to move on without reliving these horrific details every court date.
You know, my 30-plus years of being a lawyer, you know, this case, and the actions taken, I lack words for.
Sorry. And here I am, ultimately responsible. And God, I am so sorry.
Some final words from Rachael Hilyard after the judge sentenced her to life in prison without chance of parole for 50 years.
We're here in the matter of state of Kansas versus Rachael Hilyard.
With shackles around her wrist, she asks the family for forgiveness one last time.
And I will continue to pray for your forgiveness. And if you don't give it, I deserve that. And I deserve all the time I'm going to get.
In 2017, Mickey Davis went to Hilyard's home to pick up some of her son's belongings. Hilyard fought with Davis, decapitated the 63-year-old while her grandson called 911 from their truck parked outside. The victim's family is still struggling to understand 3 years later.
The statements you hear from my family will be like looking at an iceberg. All of our emotions and how this has impacted us, you only see the tip.
The victim's family says they're not sure they could ever forgive or forget, but they're relieved to never step foot in a courtroom again. The judge considered the fact that Hilyard was a victim of past abuse and suffered from mental health issues and a head injury before committing murder, but ultimately that does not justify the crime. Caroline Elliott, Eyewitness News.
Whisper in the night dark. Footsteps in the backyard. Shadows dance on stained walls. Bloodlust every nightfall. Fear grips like chains tied, chasing you in moonlight. Eyes gleam with twisted clay. No escape from me.
What up, home slices, home fries, and homes of other varieties? I'm sorry, I keep laughing and I'm trying not to. And it's because of what I did earlier, accidentally. Anyway, if you are new, welcome. I'm Emily, the fine art medium. I'm a psychic medium who specializes in the paranormal, and I have a degree in social deviance. And if you've been here before, welcome back. We are going to be doing a video on the case of Rachael Hilyard and the crime she committed against this poor grandmother. But essentially, she decapitated a grandmother, and I guess as her version of an exorcism. Yeah, it's a little foobar. It's foobar. Alright, as usual, I will put my sources down below. I usually go over the case, and then I'll do my channel notes or relay whether or not I think it is paranormal, psychological, or both. But okay, here is the background information. On April 9th, 2017, Davis went to Hilyard's home to pick up some of her son's belongings. Hilyard fought with Davis and decapitated her while Davis' grandson called 911 from her truck parked outside. Oh God. So we have a child that may or may not have witnessed the gruesome murder. Hilyard did get the chance to speak as well. She told Davis's family members she was sorry for murdering Davis. She said she was into drugs and thought voices in her head were trying to kill her, and she wasn't strong enough to get the help she needed. I will continue to pray for your forgiveness. If I don't get it, I deserve that, and I deserve all the time I'm going to get, said Hilyard. On April 9th, 2017, police officers responded to Hilyard's residence after Davis's 9-year-old grandson called 911 to report that she was physically attacking his grandmother. According to Sedgwick County prosecutors, the 9-year-old, whose father had recently split up with Hilyard, went to the Wichita woman's home after she threatened to throw his dad's belongings on the curb. Upon arrival, police found blood pooling by Davis's headless corpse in the home's garage. 2 steak knives were discovered nearby. Per case court documents, Davis's head was ultimately recovered from the kitchen sink. Hilyard, who was located in a bathroom, rambled about deja vu and claimed she heard voices as she was taken into police custody. She later told investigators she decapitated Davis because she needed to get her head away from her body so her soul could get free and go to heaven. Prosecutors contended Hilyard carried out the attack without any provocation. During trial, Hilyard claimed occult forces drove her to carry out Davis's killing after she participated in a botched exorcism. As trial proceedings played out, Hilyard also wrote several letters to the presiding judge referencing haunted houses, aliens, and methamphetamines and magic spells. Hilyard underwent multiple psychological evaluations before she was cleared to stand trial. You have somebody without doubt is insane and yet has to go to trial because we have antiquated and archaic laws, Quentin Pittman, Hilyard's former defense lawyer, told Oxygen.com in 2020. This case should have never gone to trial. Hilyard previously apologized to Davis's family at her sentencing. Oof. This is not good. In February 2020, Rachael Hilyard, 40, was convicted of murder in the first degree by Sedgwick County jurors for killing her ex-boyfriend's mother, 63-year-old Mickey Davis, on April 9, 2017. In September of that year, she was sentenced to life without the possibility of parole. Hilyard appeals on several theories, including insufficient evidence to support premeditation, erroneous jury instruction, ineffective assistance of counsel, prosecutorial error, and the district court's abuse of discretion, the Sunflower State's highest court wrote in their 27-page opinion. We affirm Hilyard's conviction and sentence. As proven during trial and explained in the opinion, one of the deceased's grandchildren was a witness who was instrumental in describing the events that led to the defendant's conviction. Oh no, he did see it. Actually, he was the heart of the case, Jeremy Rush said after the verdict was returned for the woman who killed his mother, referring to his now 11-year-old nephew in comments reported by Wichita CBS. He knew exactly what happened. He was a very smart and brave young man. Oh, the 9-year-old accompanied his grandmother, Mickey Davis, to the home of Rachael Hilyard, his dad's ex-girlfriend. Davis had received a phone call from Hilyard to pick up his JG's dad's things, or Hilyard would leave them at the curb. While gathering those things at Hilyard's home, Hilyard and Davis got into a fight. According to JG, Hilyard suddenly pushed Davis from behind and began attacking her. And then that's when the boy ran to call 911. Ultimately, the coroner ruled the cause of death was sharp force injuries through the neck. The court noted the physical evidence found in Hilyard's garage also suggested Davis was likely alive while being decapitated. Oh God. Crime scene investigators found blood spatters at the scene, which they believed had been caused by arterial spray, which generally requires an amount of blood pressure or a pumping of heart. Yep, that is correct. Hilyard was originally found incompetent to stand trial after receiving treatment at Larned State Security Hospital. She was the subject of another evaluation. A district court eventually allowed the trial to proceed. The now convicted murderess testified in her own defense and did not dispute that she was responsible for Davis's gory death. Her own defense attorney told jurors he expected they would find his client guilty of murder, but without premeditation. The court recounts the way that strategy played out during trial. Hilyard testified she went to the garage to go make sure Davis was still okay, because Hilyard thought Davis was going to get back up. Hilyard then began severing Davis's head because things told Hilyard she had little time and she needed to get Davis's head away from her body so her soul could get free and go to heaven. As Hilyard was cutting through Davis's neck, the first knife broke. She had to stop and go get another knife from the kitchen. After severing the head, Hilyard walked into the kitchen and placed Davis's head in the sink. The heart of Hilyard's appeal was that she was subject to competency evaluation instead of a bona fide mental health examination before her trial. The Kansas Supreme Court dismissed that claim by noting the defendant did not request a mental examination. The high state court further said that state law imposes no affirmative duty for courts to raise the issue of whether to order a mental examination. The Davis family issued a statement obtained by KWCH after the appeal was denied. During her sentencing, Hilyard eventually, through tears, apologized to Davis's family. Wow. That's insane. Oh, whew. That's foobar, yo. That is absolutely some foobar right there. So just by reading the article, I was able to tap in and kind of experience through the eyes of Rachael Hilyard, her perspective. And again, this one reminds me of the Arnie Johnson case and how he thought he was being attacked or was going to be attacked. It was very similar, not exactly, of course, but just the way they depict Arnie Johnson's experience in the Devil Made Me Do It trial movie, the Conjuring movie, is very similar to how I am seeing it through her eyes. It's giving Bruce Campbell's Evil Dead vibes. Like, she's experiencing it through like a drug-induced psychotic episode in a way. But the question is, while she was under the influence of drugs, was she influenced through anything paranormal? So that's what we're going to talk about next. Oh boy, when I channeled, boy did I find some information. So first things first. The murder or fight, whatever you want to call it, the fight before the murder and then the murder, that was not premeditated. At least in my psychic opinion. I don't know what's going on here. Ignore that. Okay. It was not premeditated prior to that day. And then I started seeing corner of the yard where it's close to the house. I suspect it's part of the garage, but there's like this window. And I didn't know why I was seeing that. Definitely substance abuse and addiction. And I feel like that is a result of depression and traumas. Well, okay. So I did a drawing because I did see the entity. There's one main entity. Now there's one or two like spurs. I call them spurs. They're kind of parasitic in a way. But they're not like full blown, I don't want to say cognitive entities. They just have one purpose, and that purpose is just taking energy. There's really nothing else to them. but they look like the little suit people from Howl's Moving Castle, if you've ever seen that film. But yeah, they're not the main problem. They didn't cause the issues. Many people have these types of spurs on them. You can have them from residual energy if you've been to a location that was not so great. You can get spurs, but they're not really, I don't want to say smart. They're just there for one purpose, really. There's no thinking involved. It's more instinctive, if that makes sense. But I did see a male entity. This thing is nasty looking. He has jet black hair, yellow eyes with the snake slits. He's pale. He's got the pale white skin. He looks like a descended male earthy. And he took that opportunity when she got high to possess her. But this is what this thing looks like. Yeah, he freaky deaky, not gonna lie. You know what he also reminds me of? If you ever watched the show From, I believe it's on Amazon Prime. It's a good show. I highly recommend it. But the monsters in there, they look normal, but then their teeth are like all out and jaggedy, and it's creepy, and I don't like it. But that's what this thing looks like. So the main attachment, while she was under the influence of mind-altering substances, this attachment fucked with her head and caused her to see the illusion of Davis attacking her or being zombie-like. And interestingly, if you haven't watched my earlier videos, I experienced something very similar, although I wasn't possessed. I was on the astral realm, however, and experiencing an entity, and looked very similar. And it tried to get me to believe that my husbando, but at the time he was my boyfriend, was a zombie, and he looked fucked up. And so they can do this to you. Entities can do that to you and trick you into believing that you're being attacked, so you defend yourself and ultimately unalive the other person. It's not great. It's bad. It's terrible. But that's just one thing that can happen when you have a really bad attachment and you're under the influence of drugs. So don't do drugs. The only reason and way it could do that was because she had no psychic or mental barriers in place due to the effects of the drugs. If she wasn't high on drugs or using them in the first place, that wouldn't have happened. But due to her history of drug use, something awful would have happened regardless down the line in the distant future. But yeah, not good. I did take a little bit more of a look-see into this entity. So it looks like this entity did cause some paranormal activity, whether she realized it or not. But based off of the cops, I guess, perspective, while I was reading the articles, it looked like they found her like mumbling things about the occult and stuff. So I think she might have been aware of it, but not 100% sure. In this lifetime, she was supposed to be empathic and a light worker, with part of this attachment as her soul lesson plan. However, unfortunately, her inability to cope in a healthy manner brought her to drugs, which then kind of spiraled out of control, and now we're here. I fully believe she experienced sleep paralysis on multiple occasions, has experienced lights flickering, plants dying, and it's definitely sucking the energy from her and causing night terrors or nightmares or just messed up visions during the day. It's attached to her solar plexus. The entity is a mimic and or a trickster that can also use mirrors to bounce around. Now, even though she was possessed, at least I believe she was possessed, this is not giving her any excuse, and she should still be accountable for not managing her destructive behavior i.e. the drugs and anything else that came afterwards. But with that being said, I still don't believe she was rational during the murder, nor was the murder premeditated. I guess her lawyer tried to give her the insanity plea, but it just did not work out that way. And she didn't undergo a full psych evaluation, which I really wish they would have done that. But I don't know if it would have made much of a difference, because you have the witness being a child, and just the brutality of the murder itself wasn't looking good for her anyway. I think she's fully aware now of what happened, what she did, and I do believe she is sorry for it. I feel like she's very aware that she has to take full accountability, and she has. That's terrible, dude. There's not many cases where the person's like fully possessed. Now, we don't know too much about her background because she didn't do the full psych evaluation. But I could feel depression. I wasn't feeling much of anything else. I wasn't feeling any. There's an entity staring at me. I don't like that. Ooh. But it's not the one from her. What the fuck? I don't know what it's from. I'll have to figure that out later. But I wonder if it came home from the fucking museum. Jesus Christ. The Occult Museum, Gettysburg Paracon that I went to on the weekend of September 27th. By the time this video comes out, it'll be a few weeks since I've been there. But as I'm filming this video, I was literally there yesterday and Saturday and Friday. So yeah, now I'm gonna have to deal with that. But anyway, back to the video. I don't even remember what I was talking about. I got distracted by fucking whatever the fuck that thing is. Looks like a thought form thing. But anyway, I fully believe that she is extremely sorry for what she's done. It's not her trying to get out of a consequence. I feel like she truly is sorry. Literally, as I was taking off my makeup, I got as far as my lipstick, so that's why it's a different color. My guides were like, wait, you're missing something important. And I was like, what? They're like, you don't have everything. And it made me go back and go through the search. And I stumbled upon something that validates the information I got. So, I will read that to you guys. The 35-year-old murder suspect also revealed that in the days leading up to the bloody incident, a pastor had come over to perform an exorcism in an effort to rid her home of evil spirits. Her story was later corroborated in part by the cleric who had performed the spiritual cleansing ritual. Speaking to the paper this week, Pastor Terry Fox of Summit Church in Wichita confirmed that he and his assistants had spent a few days evaluating Hilyard's home for possible demonic activity, but found no physical evidence of an evil presence, such as an upside-down cross or other dark objects. What the fuck? Who trained these people? Fox, who has been performing exorcisms for 3 decades, also said Hilyard showed no signs of violence towards herself or others. Newsflash, not all attachments or haunted houses or spiritual oppression look the same. They don't all look the same. You're not going to have all the same signs and symptoms. A person doesn't have to be violent to have an issue. What the frig? She was not aggressive to hurt anyone or herself. Had she been, I would have reported it, Fox said. If I thought she was a danger to herself or someone, I would have reported that. Fox recalled that the woman wanted him to carry out a full-blown exorcism, but he only prayed over her house. Yeah, well, that just pissed it the fuck off, dude. The clergyman suggested that if he had more time to work with Hilyard, perhaps he could have made a difference in her life. Well, the thing that was attached to her wasn't a demon. However, it was a descended negative, earthy male. But, if you're looking for upside down crosses, you're not gonna find that in every single haunting or oppression situation. During Tuesday's 20-minute jailhouse interview, Hilyard mentioned that she had been in a car accident in 2003 that left her with a trauma, brain injury, but she was quick to point out that it had nothing to do with it. I mean, the trauma in of itself could have caused, trauma, and things that she might have not healed mentally. That's fucked up. So she had an exorcism. I'm sorry. You get these guys, these priests, that have been doing these things for 30 years, but if you can't see the entity or energies or perceive energies in any way, how are you gonna know whether or not someone's being haunted or has an attachment? Because again, not all the signs and symptoms are the same for every person. Now, if the person is sensitive to energies, depending on their skill set, or the things that are more sensitive, like whether it's their eyes, their ears, their cognizance, like depending on how they're perceiving that energy is how the entity or spirit will attack them, because it's the easiest way to oppress them. Not every spirit's gonna flip a cross upside down and have the person spitting up pea soup. Like, that's not always how things work, okay? And so, yeah, I'm sure he's helped some people, but you need a medium. I'm sorry. And these guys, these priests or these pastors, whatever you want to call them, they're so against mediums and psychics, right? They think that we get information from the devil or from demons or whatever. But that's not the case most of the time. And they could be a huge asset in this work. That's why I do what I do. There are so many clients that I have that get turned away from the church because they don't fit their criteria. And then you have a problem like this. Now, he did an exorcism on the house. Again, that pissed off the entity. And does not surprise me that this tragic murder occurred. Because you know what happens? Again, you piss it off. And so Chas and I kind of go by this 3-day rule. When we do a cleansing or removal of an entity that's an attachment or like haunting a house or an object or whatever, we give it a few days. And usually on the 3rd day or after, that's when it rears its ugly ass head and kind of retaliates worse than it had before. And this was it retaliating and trying to keep her under control. This was its way of saying, oh yeah, well fuck you. This was its way to get back at her. I don't think necessarily it's the pastor's fault, but you need to get more perspective than just from your old demonology books that you've gotten from whatever church or, I don't know. You need to do more reading. You need to look at the experiences of mediums, even though you dislike them. I'm not saying he in particular hates or dislikes mediums. I'm just saying those that do, that are quote-unquote exorcists in the church, you need to broaden your perspective and take a look at other people's experiences outside of the church. And when you do that, you'll learn a lot. Okay. But yeah, this doesn't surprise me one bit. I've had so many clients. Hell, I was going through a cleansing routine with a client like months ago. And I started talking about it, and she started to manifest. It did not like that I was talking about it. I've had, when I was talking, this was like 3 years ago, I was helping someone with their situation, and as I'm giving them information, the entity made the glass on my oven explode. I kid you not. It exploded. The oven was not on. There was no reason as to why it would have happened. The bitch exploded. And I have that on video somewhere on my Instagram. Probably 3 years worth of content down. Yeah. These things retaliate. I've worked with clients where I've tried to explain, again, cleansing stuff, and all of a sudden, their skin starts to burn. They start to freak out because they can feel the pain that the entity is inflicting on them. If you go watch the Foreman Brothers' one of their latest videos, we actually just covered it on Lamp, and it's like their worst demonic encounter or whatever. Again, it's a few weeks ago from when you watched this video, but you'll notice that when they are talking with the girl, like the girl of the house, and they're talking about getting rid of the entity, it starts making her skin burn in a way to control her. Like, this isn't new. And then you also have people, and this is not talking about Pastor Terry Fox. I'm not talking shit about him. But I'm just saying in general, you'll have people that will do an incorrect cleansing of a home because that's specifically haunted, and all that does is rear up the energy in the space, and again, pisses them off, and it creates worse oppression, and it's not fun. And yeah, so the lesson here is, if you're a church and you're there to see whether or not the person has an attachment or the house is haunted or person's possessed or whatever, you better have a good idea of the potential problems that can occur that are outside of what the church believes, because again, it's not all set in stone. We're dealing with some of these entities that are not human. Now, in this case, this entity was human, but it was so descended. And then there's, of course, non-human entities, and because we're humans, we only know as much as humans can perceive and understand. So when you go outside of that, there's a lot of stuff that we don't understand, and we can't even grasp, because our brain isn't meant for that. And so you need more than just a holy book and your prayers. Like, don't get me wrong, that can help. But if you're somebody who can't tell for sure or definitively if there is a spirit or an entity in a house or attached to a person, you better get an outside perspective. So that is my TED Talk. But yeah, honestly, with knowing this information now, what I said still stands. And I'm not backtracking. I fully believe what I said. So anyway. But yeah, I'm gonna end it here. What happened is FUBAR. It's terrible. Should have never happened. And I feel terrible for the kid who witnessed all of that. I hope he has been getting some really good therapy, because he gonna need it. And this is not me being funny. Like, this is a serious matter. I hope he's doing well and is able to heal from that experience. I hope the family of Davis, the grandmother, has been able to heal from this experience and tragedy, and my heart goes out to them. And yeah, so yeah, guys, if you made it through this video, thank you so much for watching. I will see you all tomorrow. Peace. What up, home slices, home fries, and homes of other I'm sorry, I got distracted by the dog.
Hunted under the pale moon, breathless, you meet your doom.